Welcome back, viewers. Let's take a look at the breaking development where Pakistan Army Chief Asim Munir has met Bilal bin Saqib, the CEO of the Pakistan Crypto Council. Their discussion focused on digital economy, blockchain, cryptocurrency, and artificial intelligence. What is interesting is that the newly formed Pakistan Crypto Council signed a high-stakes cryptocurrency deal with World Liberty Financial, a firm backed by the Trump family. Ajay Jandial, my colleague, is joining me with more details. Asim Munir meets the CEO of Pakistan Crypto Council. Ajay, what are the details that you're picking up in the latest?
Yes, if sources are to be believed, and Pakistani Army Chief Asim Munir met Bilal bin Saqib and the CEO of Pakistan Crypto Council. Basically, digital currency basically is something which is making very famous nowadays, but it's a kind of a scam. But Pakistan is known for, because most of the cryptocurrencies which basically are operating, and most of the blockchains and other things which is basically operating, that is going on from the Pakistan. And this man, Bilal bin Saqib, he's a CEO of a Pakistani Crypto Council. He met with our defense army chief of Pakistan, shown that that something fishy is going on, because what's interesting is that that newly formed Pakistani Crypto Council signed a high-stake cryptocurrency deal with the World, Liberty Financial, and it's a firm of backed by the Trump's family. That is what people are claiming. So if it is true, then definitely things has to be eyed, because a country which is facing the economical crisis, if they are working something on the cryptocurrency or the digital currency, that is something which need to be focused, need to monitor very carefully.
Well, all right, Ajay, thank you very much for sharing more details. Now, let's shift our focus to other developments. A judge has issued a temporary restraining order blocking the Trump administration's plan to strip Harvard University of its ability to enroll foreign students. The order pauses a move that the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to revoke the Harvard's access to the student and the exchange visitor program, a government database that manages foreign students, and the ruling came after Harvard filed a lawsuit. It provides temporary relief to thousands of international students who were faced with the possibility of being forced to transfer. The university contended that the Trump administration's decision to bar international students was a blatant violation of the law and the free speech rights. Meanwhile, the Trump administration says Harvard has not done enough to fight anti-Semitism and change its hiring and admissions practices. Trump has meanwhile doubled down on his decision. Let's now listen in.
$2 billion, a lot of things, and as you know, billions of dollars has been paid to Harvard. How ridiculous is that? Billions. And they have $52 billion as an endowment. They have $52 billion, and this country is paying billions and billions of dollars and then gives student loans, and they have to pay back the loans. So Harvard's going to have to change its ways. And so are some others.
All right, my colleague Pia Mann is joining me with more details. Pia, in a setback to the Trump administration in a fight against the Harvard University, now the legal order restrains the Trump administration to strip the Harvard University by enrolling the foreign students. What are the latest that you are picking up on this, and what exactly the order entails to? Share more details.
Indeed, Trump's reaction that we just heard out, Simran, is very significant, because towards the end, after slamming Harvard and Harvard's $52 billion endowment, Trump has stated, and he's doubled down despite the court order, stating that some other universities will also now have to change their ways. And speaking of the order itself, the court, in fact, has specified that Harvard is allowed to enroll international students. And they've also, in fact, stated that it's a temporary order. The next date of hearing is on the 29th of May. Meanwhile, this hearing is taking place in Boston. We do know that around 6,700 plus students have been impacted. Out of these 6,700 plus, international students in Harvard, which basically comprise about 27% of their student body. 788 are Indian. So a lot of students are quite concerned. But the Trump administration and the Department of Homeland Security has made it clear that it has given 72 hours for the university to furnish details, especially since we've seen the protests taking place on the campus and rampant anti-Semitism on the campus. So Trump, of course, has doubled down, and this dispute between Harvard and the Trump administration is not something new. Earlier, of course, he had frozen some $2.2 billion in funds. On the 29th of January, remember, Simran, as just a few days after Trump took charge, he signed an executive order calling for tougher enforcement of efforts against anti-Semitism, pointing to the fact that Jewish students have faced discrimination at elite universities. After that, on 3rd of February, the Department of Justice had announced the creation of a multi-agency task force. Again, Trump had stated and tweeted in a post on X that it was Harvard's worst nightmare. Meanwhile, February 28th, the task force had in fact announced that it will visit 10 university campuses, and Harvard on the 10th of March was included in a list of 60 schools receiving letters from the Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights. So we've been seeing this battle between Trump and Harvard University escalate. Of course, the future of students is at limbo, but Trump is doubling down despite the court order.
All right, Pia, thank you very much with more updates that you have shared. Now, in the latest, US President Donald Trump has issued a fresh warning to Apple, saying the company should face a 25% tariff if it manufactures iPhones in India or any other place. Trump has asserted that he had already informed Apple CEO Tim Cook that he expects iPhones sold in the US to be made in the US itself. Trump then stated that if the tech titan does not comply, it could soon be on the verge of facing 25% import tax. The threat follows a recent meeting between Trump and Cook. According to a White House official, Trump was unhappy with the Apple's plan to shift more iPhone production from China to India. What's interesting is that the new comments mark a shift in Trump's position. While he previously said other countries would be bearing the cost of the tariffs, this time he made it clear that the companies themselves, like Apple, would have to pay. That could mean higher prices for consumers, as import taxes are usually passed along through the increased retail cost. Apple is not alone though. Trump's push to bring the manufacturing back to the US has targeted several major companies, including car makers, drug manufacturers, chip manufacturers, and also others. But moving smartphone production to the US could be especially costly, as the country currently does not have large-scale smartphone manufacturers. Sharat Kohli, in fact, senior economist, joins me live on the broadcast. Sir, appreciate you joining me live. Now, that's a warning to the Apple CEO by the Trump administration, and what seems to be in fact now resulting into more trouble for the Apple users is a decision that still continues to be not taken firmly by the Apple CEO for the production of the iPhones. Why exactly this is also going to be potentially targeting the Apple consumers in India as well?
Good morning, Simran. Good morning to the viewers of Newsx. I think we wait every morning for a new announcement from Donald Trump. You know, when he comes out with something or the other out of his hat. I think this fresh thing on Apple seems a little impractical to me, because the cost of skilled labor who manufacture Apple iPhones is $40 per hour if you calculate in the US, plus the availability of land in the US. An acre of land costs you a lot more than what it costs in India and China, for that matter. So I'm not sure on what basis President Trump wants these manufacturing facilities, whether it's iPhones or chips or pharmaceuticals, to move to the US, because the cost of production is phenomenally high. The cost of labor, the cost of material, the cost of logistics, everything is high, the cost of housing for the labor to stay, and so on and so forth. So he may be right in protecting his own country, bringing manufacturing to his country, but he will have to appreciate the fact that the way iPhone is available today at, let's say it starts from $800, $900, the base model, it goes up to 1,200 models in the US. There were times in 2007, Simran, when iPhone was launched. And since now, until now, 18 years since then, people used to travel to the US and, you know, your friends and relatives used to ask them to get the iPhone because it's cheaper there. I think it's going to be the other way around now. If there is somebody from the US traveling to India and China in the times to come, you will find that they will ask probably get me an iPhone from India or China or any other place in the world. It's going to be completely the opposite now. So I don't think this is a very practical solution. More than half of the iPhones get consumed in the US itself. And I don't think President Trump can afford this. Neither can Apple. In fact, it will lead to loss of jobs rather than bringing jobs in the US, Simran.
All right, Mr. Kohli, thank you very much for being with us on the telecast and, in fact, putting this in perspective further. Now, India has slammed Pakistan at the UN Security Council, stating that it has experienced decades of Pakistani-sponsored terrorist attacks, ranging from the 26/11 Mumbai terror attack to barbaric mass murder of the innocent tourist in Pahalgam last month. India's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ambassador Harish P., has given a detailed statement at the UN Security Council open debate under the agenda item, Protection of Civilians in Armed Conflict. He stated that India has experienced decades of Pakistani-sponsored terrorist attacks across our borders. He then further emphasized terrorist attacks in the last 4 decades. He has stressed on the fact that India has shown extraordinary patience and magnanimity throughout this period. Let's listen in to what he said in his full statement.
The world is witnessing a surge in armed conflict, and the civilians continue to be victims of such conflicts. It's highly alarming to see that in 2024, as per ICRC records, the number of victims affected by armed conflict has increased, with 56,000 cases registered of missing persons alone. It's a paramount responsibility of the national governments to create a conducive environment where civilians are safe and secure. While we acknowledge the national responsibility, we should not ignore the adverse impacts of all forms of terrorism, including those emanating from across borders in today's debate on protection of civilians. It is needless to mention that the terror entities have gained significantly enhanced capabilities by having access to new and emerging technologies, which present us with new threats, particularly to the civilian populations. In this regard, the efforts of the Council and of the international community should be directed at assisting national authorities in developing capabilities and capacities to protect civilians. It's unfortunate that the parties to the armed conflicts continue to attack civilian populations, particularly women, children, and other vulnerable groups, as well as indispensable civilian infrastructure, such as hospitals, by projecting them as legitimate targets. Regrettably, during armed conflicts, civilians, including women and children, are used as human shields for military operations and terrorist activities. Therefore, it is paramount that the international community resolves to take concrete actions towards the implementation of relevant Security Council resolutions that have been previously adopted. Mr. President, any attack on civilians and humanitarian workers is a grave violation of international law, in particular international humanitarian law. The existing legal framework concerning the protection of civilians cannot be overlooked. Respect for principles of the UN Charter, including sovereignty and territorial integrity of member states, should remain the basis for all actions taken by the Council for the protection of civilians. A politically motivated decision to intervene in an armed conflict situation may have devastating consequences, including to the civilian population, and therefore must be prevented. Furthermore, any intervention must be proportionate and based on credible and verified threat perception. The Council and the international community must take necessary measures to ensure effective and timely protection of civilians, including their life, dignity, and rights. The core principles of humanity, neutrality, impartiality, and independence must continue to guide the operations of all humanitarian agencies and organizations. Mr. President, I'm constrained to respond to the baseless allegations of the representative of Pakistan on a number of issues. First, India has experienced decades of Pakistani-sponsored terrorist attacks across our borders. This has ranged from the horrific 26/11 attack on the city of Mumbai, to the barbaric mass murder of innocent tourists in Pahalgam in April 2025. The victims of Pakistani terrorism have been predominantly civilians, since its objective has been to attack our prosperity, our progress, and our morale. For such a nation to even participate in a discussion on protection of civilians is an affront to the international community. Second, Pakistan has repeatedly used a civilian cover to advance the cause of terrorism. We just recently saw senior government, police, and military officials pay respects at the funeral of noted terrorists targeted by Operation Sindoor. A nation that makes no distinction between terrorists and civilians has no credentials to speak about protecting civilians. Third, earlier this month, the Pakistani army deliberately shelled our border villages, killing more than 20 civilians and injuring more than 80. There was intentional targeting of places of worship, including gurudwaras, temples, and convents, as well as medical facilities. To preach at this body after such behavior is grossly hypocritical. Let us be clear. Protection of civilians should not serve as an argument for protection of UN-designated terrorists. The international community must come together on zero tolerance for terrorism and calling out those who sponsor and defend it. In conclusion, Mr. President, my delegation reaffirms its commitment to working in close cooperation with the international community to alleviate the suffering of civilians affected by armed conflict.
Now, viewers, let's shift our focus to other developments. A 39-year-old woman has carried out a brutal knife attack at Hamburg's main train station. The woman randomly stabbed waiting passengers, causing panic and chaos and injuring 17 people. According to Hamburg's fire service, 4 victims are critically injured, 6 have serious injuries, while 7 sustained minor wounds. Emergency teams and forensic police have cordoned off the entire area, and the police has confirmed that the suspect acted alone, while the probe into the attacker's motive are ongoing. Meanwhile, German Chancellor has also expressed deep concern and conveyed his sympathies to the victims and their families during the call with the Hamburg Mayor Peter Sun. Now, a German government spokesperson has given out a detail and said that the Chancellor was appalled by the news and is closely monitoring the situation that has broken out. Brian Anthony Thomas is joining me live on the broadcast. Brian, what are you picking up? This is a very chilling incident that has come, while it has also been revealed that the woman who injured many passerby with the knife attack acted alone. What could possibly be behind this incident? What is the police saying? Share more details.
Clearly, Simran, a knife attack at Hamburger's main railway station that happened on Friday evening left several people with a life-threatening injuries also, according to what the local police said. Now, clearly also the incident took place between platform 13 and 14, which is a busy part of the station itself. Even the Hamburg fire department reported that 17 people were injured, with several in critical condition. Some victims also received treatments on board train station at the platform. There were photos also, videos also from the scene that show emergency teams transporting victims on stretchers, while barriers were also put up to shield the wounded from public view. The police clearly arrested the 39-year-old German woman at the station shortly after the very attack. She was taken into custody also without any resistance, and there were video footages also from the scene that appeared to showing her being escorted into the police vehicle. Authorities also, Simran, clearly believe that she acted alone, like you rightly pointed out, and even have ruled out any political move, citing possible mental health reason. Now, the German rail operator Deutsche Bahn also confirmed that 4 platforms were closed, causing delays and diversions to some services. Hamburg Central Station is also one of the busiest in Germany, like we all know, which handles around 550,000 passengers on a daily basis, and was also especially crowded during the Friday rush hour. Even German Chancellor Friedrich Merz also condemned the attack as shocking and praised emergency responders for their quick and coordinated action. And the situation also clearly now remains under investigation, with police now continuing forensic work at the scene and also reviewing security footages. Yes, Simran.
All right, Brian, thank you very much for more details. Now, let's track the latest from New Zealand, where Stays Foundation has recently organized the National Games and Ek Bharat Ek Lakshya Awards 2025. Young athletes from 20 states were awarded for their contribution to the grassroots level sports, showcasing ethical participation through the community engagement. On the sidelines of the event, Newsx has spoken to Patrick John, and in fact, who's the New Zealand High Commissioner to India. Take a look at this conversation.
Mr. Patrick, who is the New Zealand High Commissioner to India, and we will just speak to him, sir. Thank you so much for talking to Newsx, sir. Sir, if I may ask you, sir, since it is a sports event and awards are being given to students and individuals who contribute, who have shown excellence in the sports in the grassroots level, how do you see Indo-New Zealand partnership going forward in the domain of sports?
Well, thank you. I think the first thing I'd want to say is that there's been about 100 years of sporting contacts between New Zealand and India. And when our Prime Minister visited here last month, he and Prime Minister Modi agreed that we would try to celebrate that momentous occasion of 100 years of sporting contacts. I think we know the contacts that New Zealand and India have in cricket, but there's other sports as well, like hockey, and I think what we want to do is see if there's ways in which we can really sort of enhance and strengthen those sporting contacts. I would also want to take this occasion to say congratulations to the Steers Foundation for all of the work that they do and for the support that they gave us when our Prime Minister was visiting.
So if I may ask, are there any MOUs being planned from the New Zealand side to be signed with India as far as sports are concerned? And also, if you could throw some light, are there some other initiatives that could be inked between New Zealand and India going forward? Because, we have seen there is a vibrant diplomatic relations between India and New Zealand.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Thank you for the question. The first thing I'd want to say is that last month, when our Prime Minister visited here for the very successful visit that he had, we did sign a memorandum of cooperation on sports with India. And in that, we're looking for ways in which we can enhance the contacts between New Zealand and India in terms of opportunities to do more together in sports. So we're doing that work already. And we'll be looking for more occasions in which we can celebrate the sporting contacts between our countries. Thank you very much.
My last question to you is, do you think that in the next 2 to 3 years, we can expect a robust sports partnership between India and New Zealand in the times to come?
I think when you watch New Zealanders playing cricket here in India, I think there's a robust sporting connection between the two countries already. And let's just build on that.
Thank you so much for talking to Newsx. So this was Mr. Patrick, the New Zealand High Commissioner to India, speaking exclusively to Newsx. This is Aditya Vadhavan reporting for Newsx, New Delhi, with video journalist Deepak Shah.
Now we was on that note with more news and updates on the other side. Stay tuned.
इन्होंने हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस नहीं लिया